So it's February 25th, 2026. Breaking news right now is that the Middle East is getting even more steamy. President Trump's State of the Union just dropped some serious heat on Iran. He went straight at their nuclear program, saying despite U.S. obliterating the key facilities last year in Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran is restarting it right now. Here's what he actually said. He said, "We wiped it out and they want to start all over again, and at this moment are pursuing their sinister ambitions." He doubled down again, saying after Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapon program, yet they continue and are at this moment again pursuing sinister nuclear ambitions. That's the focus there that tells us a lot about what we could see in the next couple months or so. Then he hit him with this. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those special words. We will never have a nuclear weapon. And it made it crystal clear. President Trump went on to say that his preference is to solve the problem through diplomacy, but one thing is certain: I will never allow the world's #1 sponsor of terror, which they are by far, to have a nuclear weapon. He even called out their long-range missiles, saying that they will soon reach the United States of America if something isn't done. And he's tying the nuclear and missile threats together potentially as reasons to act if the Geneva talks flop. Iran's response came in hot. Right after that, Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Baghai slammed it as big lies and a repetition of big lies. Basically, he just kept saying big lies. He basically accused the US of disinformation campaigns while saying that Iran is completely above board, obviously. He's saying that Iran will defend itself firmly, and he's calling all US bases legitimate targets if pushed. But on top of that, a dozen F-22 Raptors or so, maybe it was a baker's dozen, maybe it was 13, just landed in Israel yesterday, not a drill. And reports are saying that Iran's this close to grabbing China's CM-302 supersonic carrier killer weapons. So F-22s arriving in Israel, President Trump upping the ante that Iran is pursuing all their nefarious actions, plus China potentially striking a deal for CM-302 supersonic, what they say would be a carrier killer missile. So we've got two carrier strike groups in position. This is brinksmanship essentially at Mach speed at this point. Stick around to the very end of the video for a wild hypothetical situation showing you how this could explode into a full-on force-on-force situation. So a lot of you have been asking, where do I get my news and how do I get the information for the videos that I make? Well, enter Ground News. They are a website and an app that pulls in thousands of news stories from around the world every day, and they organize them, showing you the political bias, factuality, and ownership of every source so you can see every angle in one place. Take this story right here about the US deploying a second aircraft carrier to the Middle East as tensions rise with Iran. I can see right here it's been covered by over 400 sources, and then I can see that the bias is pretty evenly distributed, and then I can see which outlets have which bias. So that's great for doing the research that I need to do. And then I love this new feature up here. It's called Blind Spot, and it shows you stories that are disproportionately covered by one side of the political spectrum. So no matter where you sit politically, you're getting a filtered version of reality, and Ground News steps in and helps you see what you're missing, and that's huge. So go to groundnews.com/maxusa at the link in the description, or scan this QR code for 40% off the unlimited access Vantage plan. It brings the price down to just $5 a month, literally like a cup of coffee, or these days about half the price of a cup of coffee. So give Ground News a shot for yourself. You'll be glad that you did. Click that link in the description. So let's set the stage a little more with why President Trump is right now coming out with this hard line against Iran in the State of the Union address. I mean, back in June of 2025, Operation Midnight Hammer slammed into Iran's Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan nuclear sites with bunker busters and tomahawks, and it wiped out that program for now. When it wiped it out for now. But in the State of the Union, President Trump is saying that Iran is rebuilding fast, and he's likely getting incredible intel every single hour if he wants on the exact program and what Iran is doing. And President Trump saying sinister ambitions, I think that tells us a lot about what's going on in the negotiations, with Trump's envoys in the negotiations saying that a nuclear deal with Iran is basically impossible. and that Iran isn't even going to talk about their ballistic missiles or their proxies. Oh, ballistic missiles and proxies? No, we don't do any of that. No, we just want civilian energy and we want to build the Ayatollah's Disneyland. Basically, it's Disneyland, but every character is the Ayatollah at this point. Iran is pushing back hard. They're dismissing all the accusations as propaganda while signaling they're open to a fair deal, but they won't bow to threats and pressure. So they're basically like, yeah, we're going to do everything we want to do, and we're not going to do any of the concessions you want, but just don't take out our regime, okay? Can we make that deal? And Iran's not backing down. They're countering hard. Their headline grabber right now is that they're nearing a deal for China's CM-302 supersonic anti-ship missile. These bad boys hit over Mach 3 around 2,300 miles per hour. They fly a sea skimming profile, so just above the waves, to try to beat radar, and then they're said to pull terminal evasive maneuvers in-game to make it very hard to hit these things. The range is said to be about 180 miles, and a big warhead is added onto the end of this thing. These could actually be carrier killers if they're used in the right way, especially in tight places like the Persian Gulf and the Hormuz choke points. And we've seen that Iran is trying to force the carrier into choke points. That's their number one goal. But this deal's been brewing, and it's supposedly been sped up after Midnight Hammer. And with the fact that China has brought in multiple cargo planes into Iran, I mean, at this point, it could already be in Iran for all we know. They're saying it's a deal that's in the future, but what were they dropping off with their cargo planes? Well, they're just dropping off fireworks for the Ayatollah's birthday. Yeah, they're just dropping off fireworks. Miss Ayatollah just loves fireworks. Also, there is a leaked plan for a $500 million Russian pact for 2,500 Verba manpads. That's supposed to enter Iran within the next year or two. These are great for asymmetric defenses, and Iran likely sees this as a way to protect themselves from what happened to Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. So once those thousands of manpads enter the country, it's just going to complicate the problem even more. So is that another reason to go in, strike soon, strike hard, strike fast, and not wait for Iran to have 2,500 Verba manpads? I mean, that's not a problem that's going to be an easy one to solve. And then recently, an Iranian AH-1 Cobra helicopter crashed in Isfahan, killing 4 people. Again, they crashed in F4, they're crashing their helicopters. Their maintenance is horrible on these different systems, and they're just highlighting that to everybody that they can't really maintain any of their aircraft, and they're focused on the ballistic missiles. This is why they want those ballistic missiles. This is why they want access to their proxies, and this is why they don't want to strike an exact nuclear deal. They want to be able to shuffle things around because they realize that their conventional forces, like their hard metal F4s, Cobra helicopters, they don't really have the capability to protect themselves with any of that, because the skill needed to fly those things and the maintenance needed and the skill needed for the maintainers is just something that they don't have. So they want that asymmetric play, and those ballistic missiles are massive for them. But right now, shock values are off the charts. And to me, President Trump's quotes kind of make this personal for the US. He won't let Iran nuke up, period. That's kind of the bottom line here. And then Iran fires back with the big lies statement. They're vowing retaliation if attacked. F-22's in Israel are a massive signal right now. Stealth air dominance right on Iran's doorstep. Yeah, that's a big signal and a big sign. I mean, not even to mention the dual carriers in the area, but then Iran's trying to flip the script. So they're basically saying the big decks of the carrier are vulnerable in confined water. So at this point, all eyes are on Geneva. What's going to happen there and what happens after? Are there any breakthroughs that come from that? Or is this just going to be another stalemate talk? Remains to be seen. But the U.S. is all in. USS Gerald R. Ford and Abraham Lincoln carriers packed with F-18s, F-35Cs, and electronic attack birds. Not to mention the B-2s that are on standby that could go in and strike Iranian sites at basically the snap of a finger. But now F-22s in southern Israel for air superiority and potentially SEAD, suppression of enemy air defenses. And also we've got a partial US-Lebanon embassy drawdown. Could show preparations for escalation. There was actually a drawdown there prior to Operation Midnight Hammer. Right now, at this point, we're looking at maximum deterrence, but it's clear that the words are being backed up with steel. And then let's do a quick deep dive on the CM-302, China's export that is said to be able to take down carriers, supersonic speed, low-level flight, and intercept chances for the Aegis or the Phalanx gun. Well, for the US, F-22 Raptors are the ace in the hole. Stealth, super cruise, past Mach 1 1.5 with no afterburners, killer radar for first shots on enemy aircraft and even potentially enemy missiles like this Chinese missile. They're positioned in Israel, so they're right there. They're primed to punch holes in Iranians' defenses, hit radars, hit their SAMs, or even hit some of their nuclear sites that have been rebuilt. I mean, we've seen them layering concrete and steel over their nuclear sites. It's not that hard to see, guys. We can see it. But the playbook here could be the US opening with F-22s and Growlers, which are electronic attack aircraft, to plow the way, to basically clear the path, jam any of the Iranian defenses, jam any of the Chinese missiles that have been brought in, and suppress all the defenses. And then the carriers can have more standoff. They can stand back while guarding themselves and guarding other members of the carrier strike group. But then again, Iran's going to go asymmetric. Weird. Iran going asymmetric? We've never seen this before. Yeah, this is new. Boat swarms, shore missiles, proxies. If they can get their hands on those CM-302s, they're going to launch every single one of those that they have minute one. But at this point, this is straight up chess. And don't worry, the 4D chess section is coming up soon. But a quick hit on the airframe itself, the undisputed king of the skies right now is the F-22 Raptor, because mainly, I mean, it looks cool. I mean, that's awesome. Raptor pilots sound cool on the radio also, which is very important, but it's got an AN APG-77 ASA radar. That's insane. First look, first kill capability. That's kind of the main thing when it comes to that APG-77. They can see the enemy first and they can shoot them down first, and they can track 50 plus targets at once, which is insane. So they've got the ability to see the bad guys, and the bad guys have no idea that they're even being painted until it's too late. Then you add in super cruise above Mach 1.5 without lighting the afterburners to give yourself away. And then, oh, by the way, if that wasn't cool enough, if they get within visual range, they've got thrust vectoring 2D nozzles for ridiculous agility and all aspect stealth that lets it slip through enemy air defenses like a ghost. The all aspect is huge because if you're only stealthy from the front, you know, at some point, some advanced surface-to-air radars will probably see you from different quadrants. But right now, these F-22s, these Alpha King Predator birds are sitting in southern Israel, and they're perfectly placed to dominate Iranian skies, run those SEED missions for you acronym lovers, suppression of enemy air defenses, or escort strikes deep into contested territory if needed. Backing them up, though, you've got a lot of metal as well. I mean, don't sleep on the F-35. U.S. Air Force F-35s in the region, F-35Cs, which are the naval variant. Those are multi-role stealth workhorses, and they team up incredibly well with the F-22 and the B-2 for ultimate deep penetration that satisfies every single time. Iran's Air Force, basically nothing to speak of. They've crashed an F-4. They've crashed a Cobra helicopter. They've got aging F-14s, which we need to steal a couple of those for Top Gun Maverick 3, which I'm putting my name in the hat for, by the way. So if you think I should be in Top Gun Maverick 3 and I deserve a leading role, which I feel like I would crush it, I'm just throwing that out there. Let me know in the comments below. But now let's move to some of the weapons, okay? So we talked about that Chinese sea-skimming anti-ship missile that's no joke. How would it be countered? Well, I mean, F-22s, probably some tricks up their sleeve there, but then also ship-launched countering missiles like the SM-6 standard missile from an Aegis destroyer. That would be one of the biggest MVPs in my opinion, because it's got active radar homing. It's designed specifically for hypersonic and supersonic anti-ship threats with a range well over 200 miles and the ability to hit maneuvering targets at extreme speeds. And that's one of the biggest things here, because that anti-ship missile basically bobs and weaves, tries to do the Heisman in-game. You know, I mean, right when it's near the carrier, it's basically got the ability, so China says, to do some bobbing and weaving, to go up, go down, do some maneuvers that makes it incredibly hard to hit. And when it's flying at Mach 3, I mean, that's a real problem that needs to be solved. But then keep in mind, you know, the F-22s are there. They've got advanced air-to-air missiles like AMRAAMs. You've got F-35s with AMRAAMs. This gives you beyond visual range shots with data link mid-course updates. So a data link from an E-2D Hawkeye, Link 16 connecting all the different jets, telling you where those anti-ship missiles are, so you have a better chance of targeting them. And then closer in, you've got the evolved Sea Sparrow missiles and the CRAM for last-ditch swarm defenses or last-ditch missile defenses. So as you can see, the carrier isn't exactly lazy. It's got a layered kill web that basically builds a kill web onion around the outside of the carrier with fighters around the outside, advanced surface-to-air missiles in the middle part and the inner part of that, and then early detection from the F-22. Basically, F-22 is the carrier's best friend. All right, it's 4D chess time. Pretty much my favorite part of the video. So President Trump's State of the Union address, this isn't just some random play where he's just recounting headlines of what's going on in Iran. This speech really laid bare for all of us to see how difficult these Geneva talks have been and how difficult they're going to be. It looks like President Trump at this point isn't willing to cut a deal just on the nuclear program alone, which is huge because, as we all know, there's kind of a three-pronged problem that I see here. Obviously, nuclear program number one. Second would be ballistic missiles. Let's say they get, they supposedly have 2,000 ballistic missiles now. Let's say they get 5,000. I mean, at that point, that is a real problem, very hard to solve. And then if they increase the range of the boosters on these missiles and they're able to target the East Coast of the United States, I mean, is that something we want to deal with? Doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. Unless they give me an F-22 Raptor. If they give all of us F-22 Raptors, then okay, we'll go up and deal with those things. Let's move to a hypothetical situation. Let's say the Geneva talks collapse and then Iran goes ahead and fires that CM-302 in the Gulf as a show of force. That Chinese missile is unleashed. At that point, the F-22s would need to be airborne to try to take down that missile and just go ahead and take down the air defenses of Iran. APG-77 radars would be hopefully picking up that sea-skimming Mach 3 missile early, take it down, or at least pass information to the Aegis system, which can then take it down with other missiles like that advanced Sea Sparrow missile. And then F-15E Strike Eagles would likely be behind the F-22s, rolling in to take down the Mosquito swarm because Iran's going to pump a massive swarm of drones up towards the carrier. So at this point, this has reached level 11. Where do you think we go from here? Let me know in the comments below. Would love to hear your thoughts. Go and follow me on X, follow me on Instagram. Click the link in the description if you want to see me do a live once a week. I'll be doing it from wherever I'm at. If I'm traveling or whatever, I'll still do that live. So click the link in the description. I'll see you on the live, and then I'll see you on this next video that pops up right here. This is Ryan, also known as Max Afterburner, signing off.